let's get going. So I like the Jake said, let's have some fun here. So everybody, like Jake said, please be sure to put in your questions in chat. We're right here and answering, ready to answer your questions. I'm Munira. I'll start off with the conversation, and then I will hand it over to my colleagues, Derek and Karan, to walk you guys through our, entire portfolio. So what I'll be doing at the get-go is setting a good foundation in terms of, where really our client product strategy stems from, right? Like what's the foundation of our client product strategy? And for those of you just, new to that word client, in Dell Technologies, the client word really means our laptops, our desktops, our workstations, our two-in-one devices, right? So it's basically that entire part of the business where we've got obviously, all of our, client-facing devices. So we'll talk through that. We'll build a foundation of where really our strategy comes from and what's the foundation there. And then we'll do really a very foundational course on workstations, right? So we'll hopefully build that strong foundation for you guys on getting a good hold of what these products truly are, what are their value props, what is the differentiation with some of the other products that you see within our portfolio. And then we'll have a quick kind of a conversation on AI. And then Derek and Karan will take you guys right through our entire portfolio in terms of our mobile and our desktop products. So let's get ahead. Okay, so we've been obviously looking at this extremely closely, as you may imagine, for the last couple of years, right? There are three key things that have stood out for us when we're constantly talking to customers, to you guys, pretty much as well, right? And, doing tons of surveys. We hear basically three priorities that stand out for the workforce that is today, right? One being IT organizations, the ITDMs within our customers really want to provide the right technology for the right use case, right? They're extremely focused on the experience their end users get, extremely focused on where really that consumption of that device, where really the usage of that device happens. And so providing that tailored need for really that end user is what the focus is really on. And really 61% of the respondents said, this is really important to me, right? The kind of end user experience that my end users have. 45% of our ITDMs actually said, hey, we want to make sure that while our end users are using these devices anywhere and everywhere, they're also keeping these devices secure, right? That is one big thing that's coming up. It's getting even more exasperated with, Gen AI, right? So that security is a big piece of it. The third piece really is now, while I'm using these devices, I also want to make sure I'm being extremely mindful of the resources that we're using. So 49% of the ITDM said that climate change is an effort that I want to focus on. I want to bring that to my workforce and make sure that we are, basically doing our best to keep our planet green, right? So those are the three things that stood out. And that really informs what our client product strategy is. For a couple of years, and some of you guys may have already heard this from us, our focus is on three key areas based on those three key top, insights, right? One is, how do you delight the end user? So how do we bring to you the best experience, the most innovative devices, the smallest and the lightest, especially when you're on the go, a hybrid user? How do we also ensure that while you're on the go, you still get the right performance that you need for your workflows and for your use cases? Second is, how do we simplify it for the ITDM, right? For our ITDMs that are having to manage some of these extremely complex environments, having to take that time away from that, the management time away from them, and let them focus on being innovative in their IT environments, is one of our second biggest key focuses, right? Is how do you get them secure, manageable, and easily repairable as well, right? So that's our second one, is simplify it for our ITDM folks. Third one is, again, the same kind of, aligned with that third, big research is, how are we impacting the future? So it's really basically looking at that circular economy, making sure our emissions, we meet our emissions goals for 2050 and meet our circular economy goals as well by 2030, by sustainable materials, making sure our devices are energy efficient as much as can be, making sure our manufacturing processes are energy efficient as well, and our devices are built for reusability, right? And so these are kind of the three real focus areas that we have when we look at our entire client portfolio. Now, before we get any further along, right, we'd like you to take this survey question right here. Like I said, in the next couple of slides, we're going to be building on some of the workstation foundation pieces. And so before we go there, we'd like to understand, where are you all in terms of your workstation knowledge? Do you kind of understand what workstations truly are? What are some of the big value propositions for these type of devices, or would you like to hear more, right? So if you can please take that survey question, that'll help guide the rest of this conversation. Great. That's actually great to know. So you've got a ton of customers. So it'll be a little bit of a refresher, and so I may speak through some of those topics. Just given everyone's the highest percentage is at 4. That's awesome to know. Okay. So here's a really quick overview of our precision workstation portfolio, right? So you've got mobile products, you've got the towers, and you've got the rack. Within that, you'll see you've got the 3, 5, 7,000 series products. Really, you look at them in a way of increasing in terms of from a single threaded to a multi-threaded spectrum. Then you've got the towers as well. Again, that is hey, when I need an extremely powerful device for single-threaded applications, look at the 3000 series products. And then as you go kind of up the stack, you're looking at supporting multi-threaded applications, some of those extremely complex workflows with increased scalability. And then you've got the rack. We've got one rack in our portfolio. That's the 2U rack. So we'll be talking more details on this. But before we do that, like I said, let's build on some of this foundation. Here are the key tenets for our workstation devices today, right? I think one thing I like to say is, hey, it's really performance, but performance is an extremely important part of our tenant, right, for the workstations. But reliability, experience, and sustainability is extremely important as well, right? Our goal basically is to provide a workstation that can meet the highest level of performance that you need, that manages and handles your complex workloads, whether that's, like I said, a single-threaded application to multi-threaded application, and ensuring you're basically able to deliver your productivity goals, your use case goals with this device, right? Second one is, while you're at it, while you're using this device, how reliable is this device? I need to make sure that all of your mission critical workflows get done as expected. You don't have downtime. You're not having to spend time on repairing these devices. And so how do we make these devices more and more reliable? That way, there again, you're not losing time or money in your workflows. Third one being, again, experiences, right? As and more, we've seen these devices get used across the spectrum, across the locations, across geolocations, across different types of use cases. And as and where we've seen some of these needs kind of expand, the focus has been on, how can I provide you guys with the best immersive experience with these devices, right? Let you not worry about the technology, but get creative and use these devices to their extent. And then sustainability. I won't kind of go on that in that as much yet, but that's the other piece of it, right? Okay, so now let's get to basically when you look at these workstation devices, right? What really makes a workstation device, right? Most of you guys said, hey, I already know this, but let's do a quick refresher on some of this, right? It's really each of the components that make these devices. How performant are these components, right? What spectrum are you on? So you know what you're buying for your use cases and your needs. And also, what's the flexibility of scalability that you have? Like, what's the flexibility of, hey, I want really, as an example, I want 12 core processors, but at the same time, I may need even 96 core processors, right? So as you'll see in this case, right, we've got pretty much a spectrum of Intel Core, Intel Xeon, and at the same time, the AMD Threadripper Pro CPUs options available within our entire portfolio, right? If you think about CPUs, it's really basically saying that, hey, cores are the parts of the processor that are executing the instructions, while frequency is at the speed at which you can perform those instructions, right? And so again, when you look at that, you're saying, okay, with my 12 core, parts with 15 watts with the U series processors and Intel Core, that's for my single threaded applications. That's for my productivity needs. Some of the high-end, Microsoft Office workflow type situations. But then at the same time, I can get to H series parts in this processor stack that actually go up to 55 watts with 24 cores, right? Again, helping some of the multi-threaded application needs as well. At the same time, with Intel Xeon, you get a ton of that reliability that you need with ECC, right? You're able to get to up to 96 cores in these parts. So you've got the Intel Xeon 2000 series, you've got the Intel Xeon 3000 series in our 7960 product. And then you also have kind of the Intel Xeon SP in the Precision 7960 rack. And right, what you see in the middle there is the AMD Threadripper Pro. We do have a 7875 tower in our portfolio, which has the AMD processors, which can go up to 96 cores. And if you can see, those, and together with even the Intel Xeon, they go up to 350 watts of power. So extremely powerful devices. You get all of the scalability that you need within that one portfolio. Kind of staying on the same page of we talked about CPU scalability. Now let's talk about storage, right? Here again, what you see is the workstation needs for our customers are really based on, hey, how much capacity do I need in terms of storage? And also, what do I need my storage bandwidth, my storage performance to look like, right? As you can see on the spectrum, you've got the value QLC drives, mainstream TLC drives, premium and ultra. Precision really sits in that mainstream to ultra space, right? Whether that's a Gen 4 or Gen 5 storage device. And we've got varying, again, like you'll see across our entire stack, you've got varying different, increasing options of, capacity as well, right? One of the other innovations that we have within our portfolio is for our tower products, we do offer flex bays. So these are actually front flex bays, which are placed in the front of the system. These allow the users to remove the storage devices, as and when they need to, whether that's for security, whether that's for data transfer. But that kind of helps have that option as well, where you're not having to open the box to really get your storage out of there, right? So you're able to have that easy access to your devices as well. Let's move on to memory now, right? In terms of performance, really what you'll see is we have an exclusive line of client products in that Precision portfolio that actually offers ECC memory, right? You actually get, and again, what is ECC? I'm not sure how many of you guys are aware, but ECC basically is a safety feature to make sure that instructions are processed correctly, to prevent an application or even the operating system to go through any failures, right? What we have on top of ECC now is also Dell's own proprietary Reliability Memory Technology Pro, our Dell RMT Pro, that actually takes the benefits of the ECC memory up a notch, right? So what it does is it says, hey, I'm basically going to mark off the errors in the memory that originated and prevent them from being used again. Basically, those memory bits that got used and are showing some errors, they're not going to get used again. And so that way, again, you're not having to go through those blue screens. You're not having to go through some of those memory errors in your system, and again, go through any downtime in terms of your workflow, right? So that's where your kind of some of that memory reliability and memory performance comes in as well. Last but not the least, in terms of our hardware components, you also have, again, a spectrum of consumer and professional graphics, right? We do offer integrated graphics on our mobile workstation portfolios, in a mobile workstation portfolio as well. But most of you guys must be aware of the NVIDIA and AMD Radeon Pro graphics cards, right? So those are again, you basically go up to NVIDIA 6000 graphics card in our devices. You'll see some of those details again in a bit here. But again, keeping in mind that graphics cards play an extremely critical role to workstation performance. It really is the core of workstations, at least some part of the workstations, use cases, right? As you'll see, there are differences in terms of, consumer and professional graphics card. Today, the graphics card on AMD and NVIDIA support OpenCL. So that's basically a technology that allows the graphics card to assist the processor. But NVIDIA also has its own technology that's CUDA, right? Some applications support only CUDA, but others support OpenCL. So you really want to be mindful with, what graphics cards you bring into your environment based on the applications you're using as well. Now, beyond the differences of OpenCL and CUDA, like I mentioned, you've got the consumer and professional, categorizations as well. Professional graphics cards actually enable us to get you ISV certifications. So for those of you that are using professional applications, think of your Adobe software applications, your Autodesk, Siemens, all of these different extremely expensive in terms of investment applications. We want to make sure that these applications work seamlessly in your environment, right? So we work with extremely closely with our technology partners to do a ton of testing on these devices. And you will basically see that our workstation devices come with ISV certifications, which basically ensures that, hey, we know these parts work for these applications. And if there is any issue that you run into while using these devices, you are able to, get with your software providers and get those fixed because they know these are actually, ISV certified devices. Last but not the least, Dell Premier Color, right? That is one of the other pieces where precision workstations actually stand out. We offer Dell Premier Color on our mobile systems, starting with the 5000 series for customers that are dealing with extremely color critical work where you need the right quality, you need the right fidelity, and you need the fine level of detail in terms of that color and calibration. Dell Premier Color helps you out there, right? So it's got wide color coverage and 100% Adobe RGB, and it's got your customizable user controls as well, based on your needs. Now, before we proceed any further, let's do our next poll. What we'd like to do is try to quickly understand what type of workstation devices are you guys currently using in your environment? Are those mobile workstations? Is it desktop? Is it a mix of those? Or are those rack workstations? Where are you more focused on? Where do you see more of your end users actually go? Okay, great. So 70% of you say that you're actually using mobile workstation devices and 23% are desktop. Great, sounds good. Let's proceed. Actually, one sec. Let me take a step back here a little bit, right? I want to make sure you guys basically, look at this list, right? So we talked about ISV certification just a minute ago. And this is what it actually boils down to, right? Us working with a ton of these application providers in each of these different verticals makes these workstations extremely robust in terms of their performance, in terms of their reliability as well. And that is why. So if you basically spot an application here, the list is obviously bigger than that. There's only so many icons and names we could get on this space. But if you spot, these are some of the big ones. If you spot any of these applications on this page, you should be using a workstation device, right? So this is just kind of to give you an idea of what some of the workstation applications might look like. Moving on, let's touch on AI, right? We'd be doing ourselves and everybody here disservice if we didn't touch on the topic of AI, just given how it has currently, the peaks that it has reached today. Now, AI isn't, a buzzword anymore, right? I think we all are aware, we're all on the same page with that. It really is truly reshaping the world, right? Gen AI was obviously something that has, kind of taken AI in a completely, exploded fashion. We've, on the precision side of things, we've actually been doing artificial intelligence for a couple of years now. We did have experts in our team that focus in that vertical for quite a while now, and we're already delivering those needs together with our discrete graphics. But it has been now gotten available to the masses as well, and in terms of even more use cases than ever before, right? And so AI efficiency, really the goals with this is how can we get more productivity into our environments with some of these AI applications. So let's talk a little bit more about that. This is basically to give you all a perspective on what really is driving some of these AI advancements, right? You'll see here we actually are projecting, IDC actually is projecting to see about $1 trillion in productivity gains by 2026 alone. And that's not too far away, right? That's only a year and a half or less than that away. But that is the amount of productivity gains that Gen AI can bring into our environments with all of the automation work that it can offload from our end users, right? That's one piece of it. Keep that in mind. Another research also tells us that this implementation actually is going to happen in the next 2-3 years, right? So it's not too far away. We will see about 346 billion on products and services being implemented in Gen AI. The third one being, even though the implementation happens now, the impact of this investment is going to show over a longer period, right? With anything, your investments, your ROI is going to be a little bit more spread out. But over the next 10 years, you'll actually see 17 trillion, economic growth based on all of these investments that are being made today, right? So the next 3 years are extremely critical for all of us to really take advantage of the Gen AI opportunity. And really the only way to do that is basically to have the best partners and the best providers in today's environment, right? One of the things that you'll see that can slow down AI adoption, really, as you see here, is 3 key things, right? Complexity. Most of the times the questions we get from our customer is, where do I start, right? That is the biggest one that we hear when we have those conversations. One is in terms of just complexity of the applications, the different the different options the end users have in terms of the LLM models, in terms of how do you optimize these models for use, in terms of the products and services that you have available to actually take advantage of these models, and in terms of just the talent and skill set, right? So that brings a ton of complexity. The second one is obviously the risk, right? Security is top of mind for everybody when it comes to Gen AI. There is obviously a risk of data, IP leakage, privacy issues as well. So the risks of getting this wrong have been extremely well talked about. We cannot at all afford to jeopardize our data or our IP. So that's a second big headwind for AI, but something that again we all need to focus on. And then the third one is the expense, right? The talent obviously is expensive, right? Like I said, just the implementation piece with the products and services is expensive, especially when it comes to computing cost as well, right? So especially when you're having to bargain cloud computing resources, it can get extremely expensive. And so what we are basically realizing is that we need to make sure that we have a good end-to-end strategy and approach in terms of how you implement AI across the spectrum based on our end users' needs, right? Based on how complex their use cases are, based on what they're willing to spend, based on the level of security that they need, right? So based on that, you basically get to the Dell AI factory, right? There is today a need to rethink everything, and that is where AI Factory comes in. Some of you guys may have heard the announcement of Dell AI Factory at Dell Technologies. It is basically Dell's approach of embracing AI and helping our customers accelerate their AI needs and initiatives. As you can see here, there's quite a few different layers of focus here, right? What we talked about was one of the things we said was services, right? Again, one of the biggest questions we get is truly where do I start? And so our, the services piece comes in to helping our customers basically implement, their AI use cases based on their environmental needs, right? As you can see at the bottom, there is infrastructure, right? PCs and workstations, server storage, they are really the ones that form the foundation of the Dell AI factory. If you look across the spectrum today, we offer the industry's broadest AI solutions portfolio, desktop, at your desk to the data center, right, to the cloud, edge locations, etc. And so based on your AI investment, based on right sizing the need for your AI investments, you have the flexibility to pretty much bring AI in every environment that you need, right? And then the ecosystem, right? So if you look at this again, what I mentioned was what truly, everything that makes the AI ecosystem is what makes it complex. But that is why, Dell is focused on bringing some of that AI, ecosystem to life with you guys, right? Whether that's with the applications, with the LLM models, with the frameworks and tools that you need to develop those models, but at the same time implement them and do the AI inferencing that you need with these models on your devices as well. And so our goal is to basically offer that end-to-end solution. We are playing an extremely pivotal role in shaping the kind of the AI ecosystem partnerships that we're building, ensuring that our customers can come to us for questions. We help them with, we're having tons of conversations around, the different use cases with AI, helping customers understand, their own use cases with the verticals that they're in today, and basically ensure that they can bring AI to their data wherever it may be located. So you've heard me talk about AI quite a bit now. I think before we get into our next piece, which will be a deep dive into our portfolio, let's do our last bit of the question. I want to be mindful of the time. So let's do the last survey question here before we get there. So the question here is, I think, Karan, did you want to take over?
Sure. Hey, folks. I'm Karan Gupta. I'm one of the product managers on the Precision Workstations. And I'm going to take the next couple of slides talking about the mobile workstation portfolio. But we wanted to tee up this question because we have a solution, I think. So how often do you all or any of your users complain about sluggish performance? My device doesn't respond, hangs frequently, things like that. If you could respond in the survey, please. All right. So a lot of you, it's a common issue that you all probably see across the board, and I know a lot of you said that you have workstations already deployed, so that should not be happening in workstations, hopefully. But one of the things we wanted to talk about is the right device for the right user, and we wanted to talk about AI use cases for that user segment. So this user segment that we're talking about is called power users. How do we define power users? It's essentially folks who are complaining of that sluggish performance. It's people who are using multiple applications simultaneously. So they're on video calls like this, they're presenting, they have large Excel files open in the background like I do, lots of PowerPoints, heavy PowerPoints, Power BIs, Teams is running, Outlook is running, 100 tabs are open on Chrome. All of this simultaneously is what taxes device resources quite significantly. And these people, this persona is essentially what are we define as power users. And today in the IT environments, in how people get these folks systems, these people usually get a mainstream commercial notebook, which we think is no longer suitable for handling this kind of complex multitasking environment. The usual 28 watt power, the 15-watt power envelope of a commercial notebook is not sufficient. And we think that more power and more performance can be delivered with even an entry class workstation. So that's what a power user is. And this slide is really talking about like what are some of the AI use cases that we see coming to the field already, coming to workforces already for the power user workforce specifically. So there's a lot of Gen AI use cases with Promise. There's knowledge management, marketing content, code generation. You've all heard about these. For example, right now we are all trying an internal pilot of Copilot, and we are seeing how it all goes. And that's one of the knowledge management or content creation use cases. So for your power users, right, no matter what they're doing, no matter what kind of workflow they are, it's likely that they will have some kind of use case which requires AI, which requires a lot of compute. And that means that they really need to be going into the workstation space, getting some of that NPU enabled workstations. And I'll talk about that in a second, getting discrete graphics on there if that's really their need from an application standpoint. So that's all about power users. Do consider that the next time you're making an IT decision, think about the profiles you have in your system. It's not just engineer, data scientists, everybody else. We should probably have another profile for power users. So these are business productivity with a little bit more, and they also probably need entry class workstations. So if you could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So the one of the things we want to talk about is like what is the benefit of this AI PC journey, the AI PC revolution. So as of this year, this calendar year, a lot of our mainstream notebooks and a large portion of our workstation portfolio is shipping as an AI PC. What that means is it has an integrated NPU or neural processing unit which enables local processing of AI workflows really, really fast. So some of the common use cases on the left are defined by Intel and some of our silicon partners about around like collaboration, productivity, content creation. Some of these we touched on in the earlier slide. And on the right are some of the real world measurable benefits that we've seen. So a real common use case is actually what is happening on my screen right now. So I'm on video and I have background blur. This workload of background blur is an AI type workload. The blur is intelligently determining where I am at any point in the screen and blurring it effectively. If you run this kind of workload on a traditional notebook or workstation, which does not have an NPU in it, it taxes CPU resources. So all of that background processing that we just talked about, all of that gets slowed down. Your PC becomes more sluggish every time you get on a call. In an AI PC world where NPUs are now integrated into the chip, these kinds of workloads go run on the NPU. Teams already enables this. So my AI PC with Teams on it is running this background blur on the NPU, not the CPU. And that does two main things, right? It frees up that CPU bandwidth. And now you have all of this like horsepower available again to do whatever you want on the background. And the NPU, because it's extremely power efficient at running this task, means that you save a lot of battery life. So like that, the days of 1 hour battery life are gone. Like it's all day to multi-hour battery life is what we are looking at very soon in the future. And those battery life savings are already here. So that's some of the benefits that we wanted to talk about, like the power savings that you get when you're on those calls, the some of the enhanced performance you'll see when you do other use cases like content creation. So you all have probably seen Sora or OpenAI software where you can they give text prompts to get images or videos. All of those are AI workloads, and they can be run locally now as well with the new AI PC architecture. So I think we're really excited for this. It's an innovation, a sea change of innovation in the industry. It's going to change everything going forward, and it's already here. So this is not future-looking stuff. It's here today, and it's only going to continue to expand. So with that, let's go one more slide forward, which is my last slide on the mobile side. And this is just teeing up our portfolio. Like what does Precision, what does Dell offer our customer base today? So we have three tiers within our portfolio, the 3000, 5000, and 7000 class of products. And as you go from left to right, they go from price performance oriented, so more entry systems, to full-blown scalability on the 7000 series, where you get entry desktop level performance in a mobile form factor. And the 5000 series in the middle is more about premium design, thin and light systems. If you've ever seen one of those, if you have them in your environment, you know they're beautiful looking, they're sleek. They are the one that you want to have. That's the device envy that you get when you have a 5000 series, and that is what we aim to design them for. So 3000 series, most affordable. You will get some, you will still get the workstation tenants in all of these. All of these will have ISV certifications. All of these will have discrete graphics cards options, professional discrete graphics options. But the scalability, the number of graphics cards you can configure, the number of drives you can get, other technical options, they get better as you go up the stack. And that is really our overall value proposition. And so the power user piece that we were talking about, we really think the entry class, specifically the 3490 and the 3590, those two products are really very well positioned for power users. They have the right level of performance. They have a 28-watt power envelope in the CPU, which gives you light performance. They have the option to configure a discrete graphics card, an entry level one, and they have the right price point to be able to compete with a commercial notebook in the market. So it's really the best option if you're looking to get one level up of performance, but not go full-blown workstation yet for your power user environment. The 5000 series is a thin, light stuff, awesome designs, and have a lot of performance backed in. And the 7000, like I said, full scalability, full expandability, essentially a desktop in a mobile form factor on the low end. So that is all I had for the mobile side, and I'll pass it on to my colleague Derek to close us out with fixed.
Awesome. Thanks, Karan. Yeah, I'm batting cleanup for the team here. So that says we'll close out with fixed workstations. I want to just real quickly, I want to say thanks to Max and Serena for the comments in the chat. When I first saw that poll pop up and I saw 70% of folks were on mobile workstations, I was like, man, do I even have a future in this conversation, right? So, I appreciate you guys coming in and saying, we probably should have had a mixed, environment option on that poll, so we could have clarified that a little bit. But all jokes aside, I am coming in. Unfortunately, my portfolio in the fixed side is not as clean in terms of selecting the right tool for the right job as Karan's was over here on the mobile workstation side. So I do want to call that out because one of the goals that Munira covered very early on in this session was that we want to make it easy for you guys, for our customers, for our end users to select the right type of device for what they're doing. And so what you're seeing here on this slide, I'm going to spend a bit of time on this slide just alone, just by itself, to kind of cover what do I exactly mean by that. In the case of our desktop workstations, we have distinctly different offers in the 3, 5, and 7. We're still using the 3, 5, and 7 naming, that nomenclature, but it doesn't quite mean the same thing in fixed workstations as it does everywhere else within Dell, including the rest of our mobile workstations. In our fixed workstations, it really is dependent on what type of application you're running. And that's true. Karan talked about this a little bit. Munira talked about this a little bit. That's true of all of our workstations. But in the fixed workstations, it becomes even more relevant. What I mean by that, and what you see in this chart, that very top bar talks about interactive versus computational. Interactive is going to be an application where ideally you're the bottleneck, right? You're not waiting on your system to perform any particular task. Rather, the system is waiting on you. You're the one inputting all the instructions. You're the one moving the mouse, typing on the keyboard, clicking the buttons, and you're the delay. You're the slowest piece of this part of the process, right? That's an interactive application. Computational application, Most people recognize that from rendering. There's a lot of marketing departments. You think of media and entertainment, movies, games, this sort of thing. People recognize that from rendering, where you've designed your, you're done with the interactive piece. You've hit the button and you let the computer take over from there. Walk away, get your coffee, go get dinner, come back the next day, what have you. The render is complete and you go back to work, right? That's computational. And that's the one where you're more likely to be waiting on the PC rather than waiting on yourself. And then, of course, in the middle, you've got blended applications. So back to that rendering question, right? If you think about an animation studio, someone who's designing these, the next great Marvel movie or what have you, part of that process is going to be them developing and designing that animation, developing the characters and setting the parameters, creating the 3D models. And then part of that process is also hitting the render. So you kind of want the best of both worlds. Well, the way we've designed the products in the fixed workstation space is very specific. What we've selected to do with each of these models is to very specifically address the needs of users that fall into those particular categories. In the 3000 series space, despite the fact that that's a 3 series, we call that kind of the essentials or the entry point. To Karan's point, right, the top end desktop replacement mobile has a 55-watt processor. These models start with a 65-watt processor, very, very close to those desktop replacements. They top out at 125 watts, so double what that mobile system was doing. But point remains, for the interactive applications, these are going to be the ones with the smaller core count, but the highest frequencies. So Munira talked about this a little bit with the process in the processor section. The 3000 series is going to give you the highest frequencies, which means that system is going to be very responsive to you and the instructions that you're inputting in series, right? For the applications that need or that are more parallel, they're multi-threaded, more computational. Again, those renders, computational fluid dynamics, scientific research, they take advantage of the additional cores. Frequency becomes less important because the tasks are happening so fast in parallel. Frequency is less important. The core count becomes more important. That's where that 7000 series product is really going to play. The 7960 being on the top end side there. The 7960 has 4 graphics cards, or up to 4 graphics cards in it. And so that's where that product's going to play. If that is your need, just the 3000 series, despite the fact that it has those higher frequencies, is not going to be the better product for you. And if you don't need the higher cores, then that 7000 series, despite being a 7, is not going to be the better product for you. So we're very specific on where these different platforms sit. We still have the 357 naming convention, but it's really about what applications are you using and how are you using them. So we make sure we get the right product for the right solution for the right problem, right? The right tool for the right job. Now, you can see a few examples of that. Underneath there, you can see CAD, Photoshop, SolidWorks, which is also a CAD application, Maya and Premiere in the media and entertainment kind of space. Of course, I don't know if you've heard, but we talked a little bit about artificial intelligence throughout the course of this webinar. But you can see kind of where those applications sit. Now, I know what you may be thinking, because when I was an IT admin, I was thinking the same thing. My goodness, am I supposed to know everything about all these systems and everything about all these applications? No, of course not, right? No one is expecting you to be the expert on how any of these applications run. To help you with that process, we have a team, a dedicated team we call the Alliances and Solutions team. They've put together a web page that is customer facing for you guys. I'm going to go ahead and drop it in the chat. Let's call it that. We've developed those ISV partnerships that Munira talked about earlier, and we've partnered with them to detail what systems make the most sense for particular applications and particular use cases. So we've done that with the most common applications. Of course, not every application is going to be listed there. It's not obviously not comprehensive. There's a lot of applications out there, more than we could possibly go look at. But in general, that should help provide some guidance to kind of the good, better, best solution based on how your users are using the system, based on how you're using the system, and you can take that from there and kind of tune it to your own individual needs. So again, I said I would take a lot of time on this slide. I did. Hopefully that message comes through pretty clearly, that we have a broad range of solutions here. each solution that we have selected is designed to meet and solve a particular problem for you guys. So make sure that you're looking at what is the actual use case, what is the actual problem I'm trying to solve, and pick the right application or the right system for that application. If we can go ahead and go to the next slide, Munira. Again, I mentioned that bottom bar. We're talking about artificial intelligence, right? Um, Frequently we get into this space of how so artificial intelligence has been talked about. It's been the buzzword for a year. In the workstation world, we've been talking about it quite a bit longer than that, because the development of these things like Gen AI and those types of things has come from workstations, our power edge servers, our networking storage, has come from this area. We've been at the forefront of this type of technology for years and years. And so frequently when we talk to customers, Jack, if you want to pull up that poll real quick, just to get a feel for this final poll of where you guys are at in your AI journey. But frequently when I'm talking to customers, the feedback I get is, we're still kind of trying to see where this thing goes. There's a lot of hype around it. We're trying to see, what is the reality behind it? What is the security aspects? Again, Munira talked a little bit about where do I start and what's the complexity, the risk, the expense associated to it. So if you don't mind taking just a second, tell us where you're at in that journey, and then I'll go back to the slide here. Thanks, Jack. That's somewhat what we've seen across the board as we've engaged with a lot of our different customers in the industry. So this is very reflective of that. Thanks for that. So when it comes to the kind of where do I start question, I don't know how many people saw in the chat. Someone else had posted or had, I don't know if this was automated or not, but there was an AI meeting assistant that was, I guess, recording this webinar or documenting this webinar for them and reporting back to them what the key takeaways were. That's a really great example, actually, of assisting you with your meetings and what those key messages are. But this slide really tells the story of where you can start from. If you're looking at AI and you're saying, okay, how do I use this, right? Beyond just the AI PCs conversation of enabling end users with things like Copilot and that sort of thing, where can I start adopting this within my own environment? Of course, you start with those three tenets. We talked about, again, Munira talked about these a bit: productivity, transformation, and trust. That goes back to the complexity, the risk, and the expense. But what I really want to call your attention to, and some of the risk that folks, or some of the perception that folks have, is that this is going to eliminate my job. And so what I want you to just take a look at as you look around this wheel of the different aspects of where you can start with AI today, look at the number of callouts that say assistant on them. These are tools that are designed to make our jobs easier, more efficient, more effective. Things like the assistant that I was just talking about that somebody was using to record and transcribe this actual webinar are things that AI can assist us with immediately. And those are tools that you can either leverage that exist out there already today, or you can develop them for your own environment, particularly in sales environments where you can track the needs of your customers, the pain points of your customers, the trends in the industry, and capture all that in a very brief summary that you can then take to your customer and say, okay, now what solutions can I provide to that customer? So there's a lot of opportunity here. We've talked about AI for quite a bit. This is a really good place to start. If you don't mind, we'll go to the next slide. The one things that I want to capture from the workstation side of the house is that the workstation space, the development space, the right-hand side of that chart where we were looking at the 7875 tower, which is the Threadripper Pro with that really high core count, and the 7960 tower, the Intel Xeon 3000 series with those 4 graphics cards, are an excellent place to start by isolating, by providing your data scientist their own dedicated desktop workstation. You can allow them to be more productive in those sandbox environments, but you're also protecting your risk in terms of the data integrity and data loss by not putting that into your production environment immediately. And you're lowering your expense because you're not spending an extra substantial amount of money on your data center solutions or your cloud solutions while you're just getting started. Again, that lends itself to models that are in the millions range, not quite the billions. So the small and medium-sized models. As you start moving up into the large and extra large, you'll do some of the iteration, some of the design, again, in that sandbox environment on your workstations, those data scientists, before moving them into the data center or a cloud-hosted model. So that said, we can go ahead and go to the next slide. Munira, I know we're running a little short on time here, so I'll try and wrap up real quick. It's not just about AI PCs. It's not just about AI workstations. Those are excellent. The AI PCs are excellent ways to take advantage of what AI is doing today. AI workstations are excellent places to start development of those workstations today. But Dell has the broadest, again, Munira mentioned this as well, the broadest Gen AI infrastructure portfolio across the board, from cloud to client. We've got the most AI PCs, our servers, networking, storage, our workstation solutions, all supported by our key partners from Intel, AMD, NVIDIA, and others. It's simplified, tailored, and trusted solutions uniquely built for your business. So not only do we have the hardware to support those initiatives, we also have a team of Dell service representatives standing by as part of our Dell AI factory that Munira touched on, waiting to help you on this journey. So with that, I think Jack, I've gone just a minute or two over. I want to close out there and thank the broader audience for spending your time with us. Please do respond to the survey. Let us know how we can help you in the future. We've got a few minutes left. We can take any Q&A or any other comments in the chat.
Absolutely. Thank you. And don't worry about time. We're all here, Grit, looking at your beautiful view. So I'm sure everybody's a little bit jealous of that, but thank you for your time. I did see one question come across about Copilot. People are wondering how to get it. I'm not sure if y'all can answer that question, but then we got another one after that.
Yeah, I think Copilot availability is like your organization's prerogative.
Yeah.
So Dell IT has enabled it for a limited set of people internally. Not even everybody is getting it. So everybody's testing it out for various things. So we'll see.
Yeah, if you're looking for it as an individual, it's part of your Microsoft 365 subscription. What Copilot actually enables will depend on what type of system you have, what processors in there. Karan talked a bit about Meteor Lake and some of the enablement there from the processor side. But again, you can get Copilot today, depending on your solution, depending on your corporate policies. What it actually does will vary based on what system you have and what system you put it on. And that's probably a better question for our Microsoft team than our workstation team, but hopefully that answered that.
Fair enough.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. And then we have one more question from Brady that came in. And Brady's, it's a little bit long, so hang with me. But he says one of our challenges.
I think I read through it. I can just answer for that. So Brady, it's a good point. Like there's always this differentiation between NVIDIA price for performance, which always tends to go in a negative direction because like NVIDIA GPUs are expensive in the professional space, and there's good reasons for that. I think what I would suggest is looking at our XPS lineup would be an alternative. At the moment, we do not offer consumer graphics on our mobile workstations. I don't know, Munira, keep me honest here if I'm misspeaking, but I believe that is the case.
Yeah, we have it in one, I believe. It's not something we put on Dell.com though, right?
Yeah,
it's not really. It's an offline. Yeah, we have it as an offline config. So if you do need it, you can talk to your sales representatives, but also keep in mind that this is available only for this last generation in 2024. Starting 2025, workstations or workstation products won't carry consumer graphics anymore. It is really, I think, what we talked about earlier was the professional graphics piece and the value added brings for our type of customer segment, which is those ISV certifications. And so that is where professional graphics fits in for most of our, segment.
Yeah. So to net it out for you,
yeah.
So to net it out for you, Brady, I think there is our 5690 product, if I'm not misspeaking, would be the one to ask your sales rep about for that consumer graphics. the mobile Precision 5690. If not, like our XPS lineup is quite extensive. It has all of our consumer graphics and would be an excellent fit versus a MacBook, similar design aesthetic, similar performance and power and so on. Hopefully that helps.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. I'm not seeing any more questions come in. So, while I'm waiting to see if anyone has some last minute at the buzzer questions, I just want to thank the three of you. This was fantastic. Um, I learned a lot. I learned I'm a power user, so I think I need to change up my system a little bit.
There you go.
I think everyone would self-classify as a power user. I don't think there's an argument there. Yeah.
Yeah, come on, why not have the power? And it
Yeah.
sounds right. Your marketing team did great with that. I'm a power user. That just sounds super fun. But yeah, thank you all. This was fantastic. Do you have any other closing thoughts?
I just appreciate everyone's comments, particularly in the chat. Like, hopefully you guys had some fun, learned something. I had a bit of fun, joking around with you, Jack. But I thanks everyone for joining and taking some time with us today.
Yeah. And as I think my final closing thought would be, I think our contact will get sent out. I think Jake is what you said. But one thing I would say is that as you all are evaluating those AI use cases, and you're looking for some of that partnership and that advice, I think Dell is that trusted partner that you can reach out to. We love to hear from our customers, and we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, your feedback is super valuable. You can share it in the survey. You can reach out. Like Ron said, I will be sending his email out. So if you got questions for him, like I will, feel free to email him. He offered up his email. So please take advantage of that. This was awesome. Thank you all for being here. We'll give you a couple minutes, but we're closing right on time. It's like clockwork. Really appreciate everybody, and hopefully we see you next week for our webinar next week. Have a good one. Thank you all.
Thank you.